Yo, this is Terrance Gaines, aka Brother Tech,
And this is Nica Montford, aka Tech Savvy Diva.
and welcome back to the Snobbish Show, the show for Apple snobs, where we talk all things Apple and then some. We are back with another episode. This is 250 of the Snob OS show. As per usual, we always want to say thank you for those who have been rocking with us so long. We definitely want to give a special shout out to our Patreon supporters, those who support us financially. If you want to become a financial supporter, please go to patreon.com/snoboscast. For your pledge, you definitely get some extra exclusives, and we definitely want to thank you for your continued support. So we're going to jump right into the show. As always, we start with the lowdown. And of course, all over the news is the Vision Pro. We've been talking about it for the past couple of weeks. And if you're listening to us on Friday, that means it is available, whether you go to the Apple Store and pick one up, or if you're waiting for that delivery. I don't know if they're getting delivered. Are they getting delivered, or do you have to pick them up in the store and do a demo?
I think they're doing delivery.
Okay,
And they will
so
it's next week. It's not this week they get them. It's not this Friday, it's next Friday. The second.
okay, the second,
Yeah.
so let me correct myself on that. But you have pre-ordered them, whether you are getting it shipped or if you are going to go to the store and have Apple do their demo/presentation. According to analyst Ming Chi Kuo, it looks like based on pre-order inventory and shipping time, he reckons the company sold anywhere between 160 to 180,000 Vision Pro headsets during this past weekend, which exceeds his earlier production figures of 60 to 80,000 units, which that seems like even numbers. He went from
Mm-hmm.
60 to 160 versus his 80,000 prediction to 180,000 prediction. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I'm questioning those numbers, but at any
Uh,
rate, it seems like people had expectations of the Vision Pro. Analysts has expectations, and it seems like according to the numbers, the inventory and the pre-order numbers have exceeded those expectations. Even though pre-order shipping dates haven't moved out, which if historically when an iPhone or an iPad or whatever pre-orders, if you wait too long, you may not get the ship date for when Apple said shipping will be available. It
mm-hmm.
may be pushed back a week, it may be pushed back 3 weeks, it may be pushed back a month. So that has been historically a good indicator on how well Apple products are selling.
Mm-hmm.
Apple Vision Pro, even though it is exceeding expectation based on pre-order numbers, the shipping dates haven't been pushed back. So I'm curious as to get your take on, is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? You know, does this bode well for the first generation Vision Pro? What's your take?
So first I have to say I know that we've been talking about this headset forever and I was on board to get one. Friday morning, I went through all the things. I did the facial scans and all that kind of stuff, but I just could not click the checkout button. I don't know. I was like, for
Oh,
me, it's one of those things
you
that if I
couldn't
have to
wait, hold
waffle,
on. You
I
couldn't,
could
as
not.
in you could not bring yourself to do it, or you tried and it couldn't finish.
I couldn't bring myself to do
Gotcha,
it.
gotcha, gotcha,
And
gotcha.
so for me, if, especially on my tech, I'm pretty certain on things.
Uh huh.
But if I have to waffle back and forth, then that signals even more to me that, you know what, I don't know if you really want this enough. And I don't think these numbers that Ming Chi Kuo is quoting, I don't think that they are accurate.
Okay.
Um, Unless Apple, have available a ton of these headsets. Because again, I saw some people that, just ordered them and, they have a March date. So,
Oh,
typically this
really?
late in the game, yeah, typically
Okay.
this late in the game, trying to purchase something that you'd be a couple months out.
Mm-hmm.
And so that leads me to believe that he doesn't really know what the what, how many pre-orders they are. And for me, it's one of those things where I'm glad it's still sitting in my cart. I may still buy it. I
Okay.
just wasn't so pressed to buy it,
Okay.
to pre-order it, because I did want to see what other information they were going to release, because I don't really have any productivity needs for the Vision Pro headset. It was more out of, ooh, I'm an early adopter. This is new. This seems kind of cool. But the use cases for this, I know for me, one thing, like I said, I don't really have any huge productivity needs as far as work type stuff for this. And then when I found out a lot of the streaming apps weren't going to be put on this as well.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't checked. I have AT&T Uverse as my cable provider. I
Mm-hmm.
haven't seen anything that indicates that it's there, and it's just like some of the big ones. You don't have Netflix. You don't have YouTube. You don't have
Mm-hmm.
Spotify. So my thing was, what am I really going to use this for? For
Right.
me, it's always been on the heels of entertainment value for me, for the whole point of getting this headset. It's always been entertainment. It's never been, I'm going to actually log into Office and type on the screen and do this and do that. I'm not going to do any coding in, this environment. So it's one of those things where I was like, I want to know what's going to come available on this device when, you go to pick it up. And if anything, if I do change my mind, I can just go into an Apple store on February 2nd and likely get one.
Right.
So it wasn't one of those things where I was too pressed. I was, like I said, I was initially really excited about it. You've heard me talk about it on the show before, how excited it was for this product. And I think for me, just I won't say languishing, but kind of the rollout, some of the excitement just kind of, boom, boom, kind of fell flat. And I was like, I guess, I don't know. And my other thing was, I was like, around the time that, this thing would come out, I always do a birthday trip, and then I have a trip after that. I was like, I can either do my birthday trip, or I could either do a trip for my birthday or buy this Vision Pro headset for my birthday. Which one do I care more about purchasing? And honestly, it wasn't the headset.
Right.
And I'm really disappointed by that,
Um,
because like I said, I was up for it from jump.
I think a lot of people were up for it from jump, and I don't want to believe it's because there's not a lot of support, or not a lot of apps, or not a lot of services that's going to be available. I think Apple did a good job of introducing and hyping up the Vision Pro. But I think the realization that this is a generation one device in a brand new category, it'd be one
Mm-hmm.
thing if Apple announced a new, different type of iPhone or a
Mm-hmm.
different type of iPad. I think people's excitement could have been held up until pre-order time. But I think people are starting to understand that this is a generation one device in a whole new category.
Mm-hmm.
And people are like, oh, the Vision Pro is so dope. But it's customary that this thing is not going to have a 50 million bajillion apps. It's
Mm-hmm.
not going to have Netflix. It's going to be, people are talking about the Air keyboard thing being clunky and wonky. I think people kind of realize that now and have come to terms, even though it is Apple, even though, Apple is the greatest at press release and market and all that stuff. I think people have settled in with the idea of this is a brand new product in a brand new category. So we gonna wait on this. But
Especially with a $3,500 price tag.
especially with a $3,500 price tag on top of all the extra things that you have to buy for this thing, which will easily run it up to $4,000, maybe $5,000, right?
Yeah.
Like you mentioned, people have got other things to do with $4,000. Now $800, $1,200, $1,500 that people are
Even
buying
two
for
thousand
phones.
dollars.
Well, I'm saying if
Yeah.
an iPhone was, if you add it all up, or a Mac, you add it all up, and it's close to $1,500, $2,000. People can see the use case for an iPhone, for a Mac, that would push them over to actually purchase it. Right now, like you mentioned, is this a spatial computing device? Is it productivity? Is it entertainment? People don't know yet. So I think people are okay, more so than previous, with when Apple announcing new things like the iPad, like the Apple Watch. It's a watch. People understand
Yeah.
what a watch is. With an iPad, people understand what a tablet is, right? So I think people are okay with making those purchases for a Gen 1 device from Apple. But with this, it's kind of like, nah, we know what time it is. But that still didn't stop people from purchasing it,
Oh no.
more so than what people expected. So it still looks like it's going to do well. But I wonder, this other story that I've got that's connected to it, is that because of bots, because of resellers, because of scalpers. Um, this estimate that comes from Casada, which helps retailers fend off scalpers, bots, resellers. They spotted one scalper bot placing successfully placing a order for Vision Pro in the number of 15,092 Vision
Jesus.
Pros. So basically, the it works is a bot, which is what they're, culturally known as, is some guy or some person sets up some software automations that quickly runs through the process of ordering products. It's notorious in sneaker culture, because when Nike or Reebok or Adidas drops a new shoe or drops a new fashion line, these people set up these automations, which are called bots, that'll quickly run through and grab as many as possible, and then they turn around and sell them for a profit. So the same thing with sneaker culture, same thing in fashion culture, starting to trickle into tech culture, to where, like I mentioned, this one bot was able to successfully, not try, not attempt, successfully place 1,592 Vision Pro pre-orders on Apple's website. So I wonder, just wanted to put that out there, that I'm
And that's over $5 million
right. So
in product.
because there are some people, contrary to what I just said earlier about people settling in with the idea that I'm just going to wait on this, there are some people who still have that, I need to be the first person to get this, and they will pay double or triple the amount
Mm-hmm.
just to say they got it on
Mm-hmm.
eBay, private websites, whatever the case may be. So I wonder if the numbers are being inflated because there are bots running around that have leaked into the tech sector.
Could be. Very well could be. And it's one of those things where, for me, if I go into the Apple store to try it out, to get a feel for it,
Mm-hmm.
I may get one
Mm-hmm.
because, I think it's the unknown. And even for me, who is an early adopter, there's still, a level of unknown. I think we talked about this before. My concern or thought process was, yes, this is the first edition. I'm sure there are some people who are, I'll buy one to use and buy one to keep.
Mm-hmm.
If you got it like that, like a collector's item. And it's one of those things where I think it'll hold value because it is really the first of its kind to do what it's doing. Of course, there are other VR headsets, but again, Apple is very clear to say this isn't a VR headset. It's a spatial computing device. So, like I said, is there an actual VR headset coming out that's not spatial computing? Or is there an affordable one coming out? Are we getting finally the Google glasses? What, is the product roadmap for these types of things? And for me, it's like, I don't know. And again, the device is still going to be out there. So even if you don't get them on day one, like diehards want them, you'll still be able to get one if you
Mm-hmm.
want one.
So while you were speaking, so you brought up something. Talking about a VR headset, and Apple wants people to know that this is not a VR headset. I wonder if Apple shot itself in the foot by not doing the reverse, by not coming out with a VR headset that's specifically aimed towards entertainment and gaming, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because popular sites like Netflix have said they're not going to be on it, at least not right now. A couple other things, may not be available. Charles in our stream mentioned MS Teams. We don't know if MS Teams is going to be supported out the gate, which kind of um, dims all the possibilities at first sale. Now, Apple can come out with
Mm-hmm.
software patches. This thing can take off in popularity, and Apple says, "Oh, people want a VR headset. All right, bet we're going to make this more VR friendly, right?" But I wonder if Apple shot itself in the foot by not coming out with a strictly entertainment VR headset that would be more palpable for the Netflixes, for the Disneys, for Apple, Apple TV Plus,
Mm-hmm.
for games, to where it's strictly for fitness and entertainment. Apple loads Apple Fitness Plus, and it does all the traditional VR things, but it's Apple, so therefore they can broker with NFL and the NBA and the MLB and the hockey and get all of those entertainment consumerist type applications on board to where they could get more popularity with this first product that also isn't $34.99.
Yeah.
Maybe it's $12.99 and it's got Netflix and Hulu and all these things, to where then they kind of gauge, are people willing to buy an Apple VR? And if they can, then maybe the second generation, or the Pro version, right? Since it's the Vision Pro, then
Mm-hmm.
maybe Apple should have came out with the Vision and then come out with the Vision Pro that does
Pro.
Microsoft Teams and it does spatial computing with the keyboard and
Yeah.
the whatever the case may be. I'm curious if Apple didn't
Hmm.
shoot stuff in the foot by doing a traditional VR headset first.
And that's very interesting that you say that, because we do remember we have iPad, then we got the iPad Pro.
Mm-hmm. The
We had a MacBook,
iPhone
then the
Pro.
MacBook Pro.
Now we got the Apple
Uh,
Watch. Now we got the Apple
that
Watch Ultra. Mm-hmm.
right. So is those type of things that do it does make you wonder. You had the AirPods, then you had the
AirPods
AirPods
Pro.
Pro.
Right, right.
So, it seems like they've shifted from their typical progression plan, unless that was intended, because this is spatial computing and not VR. And when they come out with the VR headset, then maybe they'll continue with the pro type of naming convention. But I don't know. This product rollout has been very interesting, and it hasn't gone with the typical Apple Flow. And maybe that's on purpose. Maybe now they're starting with the Pro, and they'll go to Ultra, then they'll go to Zenith, or whatever the case, however that they name these products. But I think it's very interesting, the way they've kicked this off, and to not have some of the big time streamers on board initially is very, I won't say worrisome, but I'll say different, because we've seen when they came out with, say Apple Studio, or when they came out with Apple Arcade, they had like the giants in those spaces on board from jump.
All right. All right. Well, we shall see. All right. Let's move on to the next um, notable thing that happened this week. Apple drops new software. There is the iPadOS 17.3, watchOS 10.3, macOS 14.3, tvOS 17.3. All are available for download this week. I just want to go over some of the notable features. I'm not going to go over every single feature for every single OS, but more of the popular ones include the collaborative playlists with emojis, and is basically what I figured it was going to be, to where I can create a new playlist, I can share it with my family can add music, can remove music, can manage the playlist, and if there's music that they like, songs that they like, they can do emoji reactions. I guess that's popular. I don't know. The
I
more
mean, with
pop
these kids, you never know.
Right, right. The more notable feature to come out with these new software updates is stolen device protection, particularly for the iPhones and the iPads, more of the mobile devices, but
Yeah.
I'm assuming it's just for iPhone and iPad now. And for those who don't know, that's a extra layer of protection that essentially locks your important data on your phone behind Face ID, behind Touch ID, or it does a delay as to when you can make changes to your Apple ID, your iCloud account, things of that nature. And I'll go over how to set all that up later on in the hookup. Another feature, like we mentioned last week, is the Black Unity watch faces and lock screens. Specific with iOS, you get a new lock screen for the iPhone, you get new lock screens for the Mac, you get new watch faces for the Apple Watch. And of course, like we mentioned, you can also purchase a watch band, Black Unity watch band for the Apple Watch. A The final notable thing that's specific to tvOS is AirPlay streaming to hotel Apple TVs. So, of course, the hotel has to get on board with this, and you have to have an Apple TV in the hotel. If those two things are true, instead of you logging into your Apple TV Plus account on the Apple TV and forgetting to do it when you check out, another option would be to use AirPlay streaming to hotel TVs to where when you come into the hotel, on the Apple TV, when you turn it on, there'll be a QR code. You can scan that QR code with your phone, with your iPad, and you can stream your content to the TV. So therefore, you never have to log in to that Apple TV. The content, the login information stays on your iPhone, your iPad, your Mac, and then any content that you want to stream, you can set it up on your phone or your devices, and then you can stream that to the television. So, any of those pique your interest? Any of those you're not really feeling?
So I'm very interested about the collaborative playlist. So I'm going to assume when you invite someone to join, is it like an Apple, touch thing? You know how you could, like the
It's
name,
not that.
the name ID, or is it
Mhm.
like a link? Is it only in the Apple ecosystem?
I'm pretty sure it's only in the Apple ecosystem. I'm pretty sure whoever you're sharing it with, of course, has to have an Apple ID. Of course, has to have Apple Music in order to collaborate. So, of course, no Spotify, no Tidal, no anything like that. Um, and I don't know if they have to subscribe to Apple. I would assume you'd have to subscribe to Apple Music because that's how you listen to Apple Music anyway. So, yeah, it's definitely locked down to Apple users who subscribe to Apple Music.
Hmm, interesting.
All right, so that is it for the new software. Like I mentioned, all of those are available for download now, so definitely do that. In addition to that, there are some security patches. There's some, Apple puts out their traditional download this update now, which going forward, just assume every iOS update, download it now because there are some security patches and fixes. They don't mention what they are, so I'll just tell you, for security purposes, in addition to those features that I just listed, just go ahead and download it so you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah. Do yourself a favor. Just keep your stuff locked in, locked down, and safe.
Yep. All right, moving on to the next story. Folks in the EU will soon be able to use Apple's Tap to Pay for non Apple Pay transactions. Right now, as it stands, and it will continue to stand like that for people in the US, is if I want to use Tap to Pay on my iPhone, I have to set up Apple Wallet. I have to put cards in Apple Wallet. I have to use Apple Pay for that Tap to Pay. Well, the folks in the EU, a press release from the European Commission reveals that Apple has committed to, not necessarily can do it yet, but is committed to open up access to the Tap to Pay functionality to third party mobile wallets and payment service providers. Of course, like I mentioned, the commitments are only EU specific. So we may or may not get it eventually in the US. My guess is we won't, but I'm kind of bummed about that because as of late, one of the places that I've been going all the time is Home Depot. For whatever reason, Home Depot will not update their point of sale machines to take any sort of tap to pay. But Home Depot does enable you to use PayPal as a payment service. Yeah. which is weird. I'm never
That's,
going through the process of setting up PayPal in order to make a purchase in Home Depot, but it would be nice
hmm.
if I could use my iPhone to make purchases using PayPal, using um, um, Venmo, Cash App. Because right now, in order to use Venmo, Cash App, you got to scan a QR code, whatever the case may be. But there may be a time to where I want to use Cash App to make a purchase, and I want to be able to take my phone and put it on the
Yeah.
thing versus trying to scan a QR code and all that stuff. But it don't look like it's coming to the US no time soon.
I wonder if Home Depot's aversion is similar to Kroger's aversion. Remember, they had that Kroger Pay and they refused to use Apple Pay, Google Pay, anything. And then they eventually had to get rid of it because nobody was like, I'm not doing that. That's stupid.
Target used to be like that as well, if I can remember. Home Depot has no sort of Home Depot Pay or no Home Depot sort of load up your Home Depot card or anything like that. But you can make purchases via PayPal. I've never
That's so
tried it.
strange.
Yeah, it's so strange, right? Eventually, maybe, Home Depot's trying to conserve, they don't want to invest the money to update all their point of sale machines. But yeah, I every
Maybe.
time, and there's been some times where I've walked into the store just knowing I can pay with my watch or my phone, and I get all the way up there with all my crap, and then have to do the walk of shame to my car and tie up one of
Let
the
me get my wallet.
yeah, that'll go all the way to my car. Luckily, I brought my wallet with me because I'm a brother. You can't go nowhere without your wallet. That's a whole nother subject.
Yeah.
But I got to make that walk of shame to get to my car to get my wallet just to buy my wood from Home Depot. So hopefully they make that change. And it would be,
Interesting.
you know what? As much as I respect Apple for keeping everything in house and making sure they have a lockdown and make sure they control things front to end, there are some things to where it's like, you know what? Come on, Apple, relax.
You can open it up just a
Relax,
teach. Just a
relax,
teach.
just a little bit, just a little bit. All right, moving on to second string. This kind of follows up with the new stolen device protection with Apple. I was reading a story, and it revolves around, I call them cash apps, but you think of Cash App, you think of Venmo, think of PayPal. Those are the more popular ones. A Manhattan district attorney, Alvin Bragg, wants cash apps like those to take Apple's stolen device protection lead. He suggested that Apple's release makes it clear that technology exists where apps could detect when a user is attempting to send a large transaction from an unknown location and perhaps block or delay sending that transaction for up to a day without secondary verification. This could afford victims more time to discover and cancel fraudulent transfers before they go through instead of after the fact when it's harder to kind of recoup that money.
Hmm.
I thought that was interesting, and I did a little research, and I went into Cash App and I went into Venmo to see how secure I can make them. One, just for general knowledge, and then two, because I have kids that currently use Cash App when they're out and about, and they're kids. So, they're forgetful. They may leave their phone somewhere. It's like, all right, well, what can I do in the meantime until Venmo, PayPal, Cash App adopts more device protection, right?
Hmm.
And I wanted to bring this story up because there is a way that you can, let's just say for argument's sake, let me set up the scenario. I'm sitting at, a coffee shop. I'm standing in line to buy something, and somebody sees me put in my passcode instead of Face ID for whatever reason. Face ID ain't working. It's not recognizing my face. I hurry up and enter my passcode. Somebody standing over my shoulder sees my passcode, sees me enter it, knows what it is, and then in the process of me picking up my stuff, they lift my phone up off of me, right? Since it's
Hmm.
unlocked, or since they saw me put in my passcode, they now have access to my phone, right? Well, if you don't go through and add these extra features, you could very well, the person who steals your phone or lifts your phone could really quickly, if not anything else, they don't care about your Apple ID, they don't care about your photos, they don't care about your Safari history. What they care about is how quickly can I get money off of you, right?
Hmm.
So what they could do is they can go into Cash App, they can go into Venmo, they can go into PayPal, hurry up within a couple minutes and send themselves some money from your PayPal, your Cash App, your Venmo, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, dang, is that true? So, like I said, just general knowledge. I actually went in and found out until Cash App, Venmo, PayPal do add this extra protections, there are some things that you can do to kind of lock down those apps. And the one way I can think about doing it, and it works for Venmo and Cash App. I don't know about PayPal, but you can log into Cash App because as soon as you open those, they're open. There's no, especially from a device that you are familiar with, you don't have to
Mm-hmm.
enter your Face ID off the rip. You have to go into the
Huh.
settings and turn on Face ID and Touch ID to access the app. And which is more importantly, after you go through the process of sending somebody money, Cash App specifically, but both Cash App and Venmo, you can turn on the setting to where you have to enter a PIN, and you actually go in and set up a PIN to then confirm that you, yes, in fact, want to send this money. So that is kind of like my lessons learned from this story is if you are using Cash App, if you are using PayPal, if you are using Venmo, please don't just rely on your phone being locked to add that extra security to those third-party apps, because those third-party apps are not by Apple. They are not protected under this new device protection. You have to go in and be vigilant and set those things up to where if you send money to somebody, like if I were to send $5 to Nica, even though I've used my Touch ID, my Face ID to get into my phone, I still have to use that PIN to confirm that I want to send her that money. So that's my little lessons learned that I want to impart to you. Go into those apps and set up that extra security. So if something happens and somebody does take your phone and they do have access to it, they still have to jump through some hoops to actually send themselves some money.
Yeah, I just tried it, and I just in my mind it's just of course when you log into these they take your Face ID because typically you open up it's so second nature now
Mm-hmm.
to expect to hold your phone up so you get the Face ID, and
Mm-hmm.
I just tried on all three of them, and they did not request any type of authentication. They just opened.
Yep, yep. Because it's when you're sending somebody money on site, you want to make it as quick as possible. You don't want to be fumbling
Right.
around and yada yada yada. So these apps do let you open them, without using your Face ID, because the assumption is, well, you have the phone. If you have access to the app, then Apple has done its job to authenticate who you are. So anything else after that, once you get past the phone unlocked, then you're cool. And that's not the case. Or even something as simple as maybe not somebody stealing your phone. I saw this. This reminds me. I saw this TikTok, and it's supposed to be funny, right?
Uh-huh.
So the guy and the girl are sitting at the dinner table, right? And of course, the way social media runs now, everybody wants to take all these social media pictures all the time. Most dudes, who are not social media inclined, they're like, I'm tired of, wife or girlfriend or my date in this case wants to take all these pictures. So I'm gonna go ahead and pay myself for being your social media photographer. And the dude, he takes her phone because she says, take a picture of me. I need you to take a picture of the food, all the things that social media people do, right? So he's
Right.
like, all right, bet. Takes her phone and holds it up like he's taking a picture, but he's in her Cash App sending himself some money. I thought that was hilarious because he's like, all right, bet I'm a compensate myself for being your
For
photographer,
this
right?
effort.
Right. But that's a real that kind of hit home to this because she's already in her phone. She unlocked her phone
Yeah.
to give it to you so you can take a picture. I'll give you another example. It happens all the time. I unlock my phone and then I give it to somebody so they can enter their contact information because
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be like, all right, how do you spell that? What's your phone
Can you say
number?
that number again? I
Right. What
typed it
is
in. I pressed the wrong
here?
button. Yeah.
Here. I give you the phone. You enter your name. You could very quickly, now that you have access to the phone, quickly cash up yourself $200 while all the while I'm thinking you put your contact information in my phone. By the time I get home and notice, you long gone, right? So, in those situations, it don't
That's what those
necessarily
water boys were doing.
right. It don't necessarily have to be somebody stole my phone. I
Yeah.
could give you access to my phone, and then you take that access and do whatever you want to do. So,
Whatever you want to do with
right.
it.
So all around the world to say, if you do use Cash App, if you do use those Cash apps, definitely add that extra layer of protection. All right, moving on to for the culture. This is something personal. I'm a big fan of Jon Stewart. He was the longtime host of The Daily Show prior to Trevor Noah taking it over. Well, Jon Stewart went over to Apple TV and he had his series. I think it went for 3 or 4 seasons.
Hmm.
The problem with Jon Stewart, and for whatever reason, their partnership between Jon Stewart and Apple TV abruptly stopped. Word on the
Apple
street,
TV makes no sense. They cancel some of the most amazing shows, the most popular shows, without any type of indication. And they don't even advertise their shows. And they have some amazing stuff on Apple TV. I don't know what's going on with Apple TV, but that was just my little diatribe about Apple TV.
right? Word on the street, the rumors are, John was getting a little too less funny and
And more
more
serious.
serious.
Yeah.
And Apple TV is like, hey man, wait, what are you doing?
Keep it light, keep it funny. We hired you to
Right,
be
right,
funny.
right. So for whatever reason, they abruptly ended that show. But it looks like, according to this story, Jon Stewart will return to the Daily Show once a week, and he'll mostly be doing well, not mostly. He'll only be on there once a week on Mondays. Uh, the Daily Show is still looking for a host to replace Trevor Noah. They've had, all of these celebrities. They had their quote unquote anchors, their analysts that kind of shuffle and assume the responsibility of hosting the show. But for Mondays, I don't know when. It doesn't say when he'll start, but
Hmm.
he will host the Daily Show on Monday nights, and he will continue to be on the Daily Show throughout the 2024 election, which I couldn't pick the better time for Jon Stewart to be back on the Daily Show than
Right.
the right now for the 2024 election. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. And I thought it was cool because he put, which, again, makes me more of a fan. He's very topical. And he put in Twitter, he says, friends, after much reflection, I have decided to enter the transfer portal for my last year of eligibility. Excited for the future. And he puts his stats. He says 5'7" ish, 165 pounds, and he runs a 14.8 second 40. He says hashtag blessed, hashtag NIL baby, which, that's a college football reference, hashtag TDS Nation, hashtag LFGM. I'm not sure what that one is. I feel kind of old for that one, but I just thought that was funny because it's very topical because we're transfer portal is popular in the news, the NFL, not
People
the,
use that all the time when they are leaving or going to do something else.
and people are starting to show their dislike of the transfer portal. There's been a couple of analysts, a couple of sports people, and of course, all of the people on the internet, commenters, not commentators, commenters who are like, "This messing up the NFL, is messing up college football. These players don't have no what's it called? A loyalty. There's no loyalty. You know, anytime the players just want to leave, they can just enter the transfer portal and there's no, loyalty or respect. It's like you got to stay there and work hard, forget players having control of their own destiny, right? It's
Right.
all about, these players and they, just being they're just being selfish, and they're just looking out for themselves, no loyalty, no love to the school, whatever the case may be. So I just thought that, and like you mentioned, talking about NIL, players getting paid for their name, image, and likeness, so I just thought that was cool that, he's very topical, and adding, and I thought with the 14.8 second 40 stat, I thought that was, like, in my opinion, I thought that was a not a dig, but a
A
callback.
nod to Cat Williams.
Exactly, because Cat Williams in his long interview on Club Shay Shay, his thing was, I ran a, what was a 14-1 or 14-0 40. So I
Yeah,
thought,
something insane.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So all that around the world to say, he Jon Stewart is one of my fan favorites as
Mm-hmm.
far as his political commentary. I follow him on social media, and he's always speaking up. When
He's
he
not with the shits.
right,
He's like,
and he
this
doesn't
is
have
what it is.
right, and he doesn't have to. This is not the social media that I've seen. It's not him promoting anything. It's not him just staying in the news. Just trying to stay social and stay relevant. He's really speaking on things that are important to him, and he's speaking on important things in our country and in the world as a whole. And whatever
Yeah.
side, whatever the case may be, and I it's much needed, and I definitely looking forward to him being back on the Daily Show.
He's being a socially engaged citizen of this country and of
Hmm.
this world, with his commentary, much like, many other people who don't have the platform that he has.
All right.
And what this reminds me of is lately I don't really watch MSNBC anymore because it's just gotten, too crazy. But I did really enjoy Rachel Maddow. And if you remember, she had a daily show as well.
Hmm.
And then she stepped back and she only does Monday nights
Okay.
on MSNBC. So I think it's the way of, still having that voice.
Hmm.
But, these folks are, super talented, super well known, super rich. They don't have to do this. They don't need to do this. But this is,
Hmm.
to me, I think, a way of engaging and being involved on a even larger platform by coming in to do one night. And the way that Comedy Central and The Daily Show have just basically screwed the pooch on this whole new host thing. I
Yeah,
mean, you had
yeah.
Roy Boots Jr. right there who wanted the job, who was excellent at it. He's been a long time contributor. So, you had somebody there, that you had all of these hosts who some of them were really good. And now you're going to a hostless show with the exception of this new announcement of,
Hmm.
Jon Stewart being on Monday night.
Yeah, and it's like they maybe the Daily Show feels like they want to please everybody, and I don't know, maybe they not necessarily felt like they got it wrong with Trevor Noah, but
Mm-hmm.
maybe they want to say, all right, we had Trevor Noah on the show. Let's bring somebody on that appeals to everybody, right? And that's maybe one of the reasons why, like you mentioned, Roy Wood Jr., he may just appeal to a certain group. And then also, who I thought was a front runner, who I thought would be dope at it, was um oh, jeez, um what is his name? Hassan Minaj. I could not think of his name to save my life. I
I
followed
think
him.
he ended up having some
Well, see, okay,
personal issues or
no.
something.
So what happened was, and I don't know if I agree with this or not. He had a stand up special on Netflix, and he's a storyteller comedian, similar to like Dave Chappelle, right? They
Mm-hmm.
do a good job of telling a story. He told a couple of stories that weren't. He told them as incidents in his life,
Okay.
but weren't actually factual as to exactly what happened, right?
Okay.
There was an incident where he dated somebody and went to prom. I don't know the exact line, but the story that he told in the special wasn't what actually happened in actuality, right? I don't know if that was to protect, somebody's name or whatever the case may be. And then there was
Mm-hmm.
another one that I think maybe got him into more trouble, to where there was a particular setup to where he talked about after 9/11 how everybody clamped down on the Muslim community, and there was a undercover cop that went undercover into his or his family's mosque, and he used that setup to get to the punchline, whatever the punchline was. Well, history would have it, it didn't really happen that way, and he had to explain as to how, I use my life stories, and I use my interactions to as a part of my comedy, right? Well, you would assume that if you're using your own personal experiences, that's what actually happened. So there was a whole kind of, all right, well, did it really happen? Or are you just lying to just make the joke funny? And his thing was, well, no,
Mm.
I'm not necessarily lying, but I am fabricating parts of the story in order to set up the punchline. And I think that kind of all the way
So he
back
kind of
when
he had a credibility issue at
he
that
had
point.
a credibility
People
issue.
weren't sure if he was being truthful or not. And even though it seemed some of the things you mentioned weren't huge things, it
Right.
was just maybe the multitude, the number of the instances that caused issues.
Right. And all around the world to say maybe Daily Show was like, oh, nah, we ain't got time to be answering questions as to why Hassan Minhaj is, host, which makes perfect sense. You had Jon
Yeah.
Stewart, who's a white dude. You had Trevor
Mm-hmm.
Noah, who's black/African. And then you
Mm-hmm.
have, somebody like Hassan Minhaj, who's Eastern Indian. That's
Mm-hmm.
kind of like you getting everybody, not at the same time, but you're getting
Mm-hmm.
kind of like a wide array of people with a wide different experiences. So maybe this is with Jon Stewart. I doubt even if they offered to him, he probably wouldn't accept it. But maybe this is Daily Show's way of splitting the difference.
But my thing is, why is why why is that even a thing? There are many people of different races, different genders, different lifestyles that have consistently not seen themselves in talk shows or movies or TVs or pictures. We always talk about representation matters. So, what's the issue now? What's the problem now? Is it that it's being too diverse and they don't want it to be too diverse as far as hosts?
I don't know if it's
Or
I don't know if it's they want it to be too diverse. I think they are just trying to capture as many eyeballs as possible, and they feel, they being the producers, the creators of the Daily Show, maybe they like we mentioned in the pre-show, with the Super Bowl and what's going on with the Chiefs and the whole what's the girl's name, Taylor
Taylor
Swift thing.
Swift. Mm.
They're just trying to get as many eyeballs as possible, and that's the name of the game. How many numbers, how much ratings you can get, So we're trying to get everybody, which again makes sense in a long story short of getting Jon
Yeah.
Stewart because he is respected by a lot of
Yeah.
different.
But it's
Yeah.
only for that one night. I think what they're doing is splitting the difference. I think what they're doing
Mhm.
is running people off, because there's no way on God's green earth you're going to be able to find a person to cater to every specific person, and it seems to me they're so focused on getting eyeballs, like we mentioned in the pre-show, that you're trying to retain something that you already have rather than being willing to bring in some new viewership,
Mhm.
by not being so focused on one specific group or block of people or catering
Or trying
to
to.
them, that you're missing a whole world of people out there. And what they're going to do is turn off their current fans
Well,
and
you got
not bring in any new ones because you don't have a consistent person.
well, common sense and dollar signs typically don't
Yeah,
always match up when it
that's
comes
true.
to capitalism and consumerism, right? So it is what it is. But all the around the world to say, I'm definitely a Jon Stewart fan, so I definitely look forward to seeing him when he shows up on the
So
Daily
Monday
Show.
nights are going to be good for you
Yep,
on the
absolutely.
Daily Show.
Yep. Yep. All right. So moving on to the hookup, we mentioned it towards the top of the show. Stolen device protection is now available for all devices that can download iOS 17.3. I would highly advise you turn on that feature, but there's a couple of hoops you got to jump through in order to get stolen device protection turned on. So that is my tip for the week. I'm going to tell you what you need to know in order to get stolen device protection enabled. Basically, it's just a bunch of check boxes that you have to check off. First one you got to check off is you need two-factor authentication turned on your Apple ID. Once you do that, you definitely need to add a passcode to your device for obvious reasons, right? Nobody not accessing your device, but there are some people who don't turn on a passcode on their device. You got to do that. Again, if you're just using a passcode and you haven't turned on Face ID or Touch ID, because I don't trust Apple, air quotes, in order to use stolen device protection, you do have to enable Face ID or Touch ID, depending on what device you have. And then finally, you need Find My enabled. And basically, that enables you to locate your device if you have it lost or stolen. And you have to turn on significant locations enabled. So there's a precise locations and a significant locations. At the very least, you have to have significant locations enabled. Once you check all those things off the box, then you can go in and turn on stolen device protection. And basically what you do is you go into iPhone settings, then you go to Face ID and passcode, and then you turn on protection. That will turn on the device protection. And for those not paying attention up until now, what stolen device protection is, it adds another layer of protection to where if somebody has access to your phone and they're able to get into your phone, additional features like being able to access Apple Wallet, being able to change your Apple ID, either the Apple ID itself or your email address, at being able to access your iCloud information, all of that you'll have to authenticate via Face ID or Touch ID. You just can't do the passcode and get access to everything. You got to have extra authentication in order to access those sections. So that is my tip for the week. I would highly advise you do it. Once we're done with this show, I'm going to go upstairs and make sure all my family is updated to iOS 17.3 and then all these things because I got kids. And last thing I need is somebody to in my family to lose their device and then come crying to me because all their little Cash App money is gone.
Yeah. Turn this on first upgrade to 17.3.
Yeah,
If you're still on 16 or if you're on 17.1, first upgrade to 17.3 because it does include some key security fixes. And we preach that. Make sure that your data and your devices are safe and protected. And second, this is another layer of protection when it comes to your data specifically related to your Apple ID in case your phone is lost or stolen. So we can't urge you enough to definitely upgrade to 17.3 and get this device protection turned on.
Right. And again, like I mentioned, I'll say it again, the cool thing about stolen device protection is it's in addition to just turning on your passcode or your Face ID and Touch ID to access your device. Because even if somebody has access to your device and they're able to bypass that, the stolen device protection enables them to not be able to access a whole bunch of other stuff, even if they do have access to your phone.
Yep.
All right. So that is going to do it for this week's show. Nica, tell the folks where they can find you.
You can find me at Tech Savvy Diva everywhere.
And you can find me all over the internet at Brother Tech. That's BROTHATECH. If you want to interact with the show, please go to our website. That's snoboscast.com to get all the details. Until next week, we are out. Peace.
Bye, everybody.